Charlie Gipple here. Hey, I want to talk real briefly about what I believe is one of the top missed opportunities by agents as well as investment advisory firms. These are firms that are paid on assets under management, used to collecting a lot of money from clients, chunks of money, 100,000, 200,000, $500,000. And oftentimes paid off assets under management, but eventually that AUM may disappear. A good chunk of it may disappear. Why? Because the clients may have to cash it out because of the 7 in 10 chance that they have a long-term care event. So there are certainly additional ways to get revenue from these clients, as well as protect the future revenue, the AUM, and that is through long-term care conversations. Going to go over 5 quick illustrations here, but just know whether your clients have large chunks of money, 200 grand, 300 grand, or just cash flow. I can only pay $5,000 a year in premium. Whether it's the chunks or the ongoing premium, there's a long-term care solution for those clients. Whether the clients have only qualified money or they have some non-qualified money, there are long-term care solutions. Charlie, you're telling me that with qualified money, we can fund a long-term care policy? Yes, there are ways. Whether your clients are single or it's a joint scenario, there's a long-term care option here. All these options that I'm going to talk about allow for joint options, even though I'm just going to simplify it with a single 70-year-old female today. Whether your clients are healthy or not, there are long-term care options. So let's dive right into this. The first one is what I believe to be kind of the lowest hanging fruit from a product standpoint when it comes to kind of the traditional annuity producer or even investment advisor that's used to getting those $200,000 chunks here, right? So here we have a 70-year-old female. And this first product is a Global Atlantic product. This is a long-term care annuity. Between long-term care annuities and long-term care life insurance, these hybrid products, they are now about 90 to 95% of the long-term care business. So no longer is that traditional long-term care really producing a whole lot relative, right? Why? Because if you don't use traditional long-term care, you lose it, as well as premiums. Premiums can increase on those traditional long-term care policies. But again, within the hybrid world is an annuity like this. So here's the annuity in a nutshell. This is Global Atlantic, and then we're going to talk about One America. They have a couple of long-term care annuities as well as a life insurance policy. So here I have a 70-year-old client. Actually, last week I had a 73-year-old client, and I sold this to her for $150,000. Let's say this client has $200,000 maybe sitting in a bank. It's lazy money, whatever. What if you move that 200 grand from the left pocket to the right pocket? Now, what do I mean by that? All right, Mrs. Client. So here's what's going to happen. This is an annuity. And within this annuity, your money is going to grow, right? So your $200,000 is going to have an interest rate, at least this year. Next year, it can change. And we can get into what it can change to. Has the company changed it historically a lot, et cetera, et cetera. But here is what your interest rate's going to be, at least in the first year. It's 6%. So your 200 grand goes in. The annuity is going to grow by almost 6%. Why that's not perfectly $12,000, I won't get into. But why do I say almost 6%? Because there are long-term care charges that we're going to talk about here in a bit. But so far, and I had this happen with a client to where I've explained it up to this point, and they said, why would I not do this? So you mean to tell me that my annuity value is going to grow? It's going to grow faster than what my certificate of deposit or my bank account is doing for me. So if I die, my beneficiary gets whatever it's grown to, which is probably going to be a higher value than what my CD would have grown to. If I want to cash it out, it's a 9-year surrender charge product. I can cash out probably a lot more than what I put in. Why would I not do this? And that's when I'll say, well, we haven't even gotten to the best part here, and that's the long-term care part. Here is what this policy does. What this policy does, it says, hey, that $207,000 that's your account value at the end of that year, you triple it over here on the right, and that is the value that you have from a long-term care value standpoint. So this value over here, you can access it if you cannot do 2 of 6 activities of daily living, it's called. So your $200,000 has immediately gone to $600,000. In other words, what we have here, and by the way, this is in the state of California that I'm running this illustration here. So what we have here is your first $200,000 roughly, but then there's something called an extension of benefit rider. That's an additional $400,000. This is very important vernacular here. You have the AOB, which is the acceleration of benefits, right? Your annuity value comes out first, but then there is a COB, continuation of benefits, or an EOB, an extension of benefits, the same thing. And that's the additional above and beyond that. That vernacular is very important because you're going to see that pop up in these illustrations. But altogether, this plus this equals $607,000. And guess what? When you divide that by 6 years, because you can spread this out over a 6-year period of time, 72 months, that comes out to a total monthly benefit of $8,333. So let me get this straight. If you live and need care, live, die, or quit, right? If you live and need care, what happens? Well, you have 3 times your money. What if you die? Well, if you die, your beneficiary over here, this death benefit, it's probably going to be more than what you otherwise would have in your certificate of deposit. Okay, quit. What happens if I want to quit? Again, this is an annuity, so similar rules apply. It's a 9-year surrender charge product. So at the end of that 9 years there, you can take your money, cash it out. There are almost no downsides to this scenario other than the rider charges. You are paying for long-term care here. However, those of you that have written traditional long-term care insurance, you know that for a $600,000 total long-term care benefit on a 70-year-old female, what would the premium be per year? Not $4,000, but certainly I would say $10,000 to $15,000. So this is the long-term care annuity with Global Atlantic. Now, shifting gears, the similar product that One America has, and One America has kind of quickly become the king of the hybrid long-term care space. This is an annuity. It's a similar concept. It's a similar concept as it's almost an identical concept to what I just talked about there. And by the way, this is very high level. I want to make this video as short as possible and as bearable as possible. Now, what happens is, again, you have your accumulation value, and that accumulation value turns into, it's an annuity that'll grow by a certain amount. Now, what is the interest rate on this annuity with One America? It's 3.6%. So not as sexy as the 6% rate, right? But it's still probably going to grow even after the fees are reduced from the contract. Again, this is a California illustration, so available in California. So this plus the COB, right? You have a total long-term care value of $508,000. So it's not a tripling like what I just showed you. It's not a 6% interest rate. It's a little less. But here is what the company says is that when you divide that $508,000, it's not over a 72-month period of time. Excuse me. The period of time is actually, let's see, your AOB is 24 months, your COB is 36. So what is that? That's 50 months. 50 months here. So you divide that by 50, and guess what? You have your monthly benefit of $8,479. That's getting a little technical there, but that's how they arrive at the monthly benefit. And by the way, both of these products, if you have a spouse, you can add that spouse to it. The benefit period is a little longer, which means you divide more months into that, the benefit per insured is going to be a little less, but you get what I'm talking about. But a similar concept here. Hey, your money's probably going to grow better than where it is on the sidelines at the bank. If nothing else, if you don't even use this long-term care policy for long-term care, it's probably going to do better than where you're at in the CD. Well, why would I not do this? Yeah, especially considering you have almost 3 times what you put in for purposes of long-term care. Now, let's shift gears real quickly to another annuity that they have called the indexed annuity care. So let's say you have a scenario. Let's say you have an 85-year-old. Heck, this goes up as high as 87 on an exception basis. And this person has, say, an annuity, $200,000 in an annuity. And that annuity is non-qualified. And that $200,000, let's say that only $100,000 of that is cost basis. So there's $100,000 in gain in this annuity. Do you know that with all of these annuities that we're talking about, you can 1035 exchange that annuity with appreciation in it or with growth into one of these long-term care annuities, and eventually those benefits, at least if used for long-term care, 100% tax-free. 100% tax-free. Now, the indexed annuity care is special because, that $200,000, it has a cap of, it's like 5.5%. The cap isn't huge, obviously, but it's got a cap on it. The long story short, whatever the index grows by, plus a bit of a booster, which I won't go into here, that is how the account value grows. Now, on this policy, because our client is extremely unhealthy, let's say, we did not add one of those continuation of benefits riders, meaning that basically whatever their account value is, that is what the value is from a standpoint of long-term care. You divide that value by 24 months. So there's a 24-month benefit period on this. Divide that by 24 months, and that means that it's almost $9,000 a month. Now, that doesn't seem real sexy, right? $9,000 a month times 24 months. I mean, that comes out to a little more than what the client put in. Think of an 85-year-old or an 87-year-old that is very unhealthy, that has a good amount of taxation that their beneficiaries are going to be subject to, or they're going to be subject to, because they have this annuity that has a huge amount of growth. And what if, from a tax play standpoint, they can move that chunk of money over into this and get all of that $8,929 per month over 2 years, or their whatever, $214,000, 100% tax-free. Virtually no underwriting. It's basically 4 knockout questions in order to not have the continuation of benefits, right? We're not tripling their money here. We don't have a COB rider on it, as I emphasized earlier. So therefore, the underwriting is like 4 knockout questions. Are you currently in a nursing home? No. Are you currently alive? Yes. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there are banks that are doing a ton of money in this indexed annuity care because it's a tax play largely, as well as a liquidity play. You can take all of your 200 grand plus whatever it's grown to over a 24-month period of time if you are confined to a nursing home, if you cannot do 2 of 6 activities of daily living. All right, so now let's go to the life product. So again, going back to, so think Global Atlantic, right? So we're talking about $8,000 a month benefit. Here's what the life insurance policy does. You put in $200,000 and it's a life policy. So you have a death benefit, not a big death benefit here, but a death benefit, $226,000. So a similar concept, more underwriting here, more underwriting. Many times there are doctor reports that are ordered with these life policies. With the annuities, there are no doctor reports that are ordered. So expedited, more expedited underwriting with the annuities. But this is the asset care. This is One America's life policy. Now, jumping through those additional hoops might give that client, in this case, gives our 70-year-old more long-term care coverage. And what I did was I chose, again, a 72-month benefit period, 6 years, right? 2 years the AOB, 4 years the COB, just because I wanted to keep it apples and oranges. So you divide 72 months into that, you have more of a long-term care benefit here. Instead of $8,000 some dollars per month, you have $9,400 per month. So that's the apples to apples comparison, 72 months versus 72 months. I will say that these life policies, they are much more customizable. As in, this policy here, we can choose an unlimited benefit period, an unlimited continuation of benefits period. What's that going to do to our monthly benefit? Of course, it's going to bring it down. So think of folks in memory care units for like 8 years, 9 years, crazy long-term care expenses here. I'm going to show you in a bit the unlimited benefit that can be attached to this asset care life hybrid product. Again, more customizable. You can choose inflation options with the life policies here, to where with the annuity policies, for the most part, you can't. But hey, if the account value is going to grow on the annuity by whatever, 4%, 5%, then that's kind of an inflation benefit. True, but you can have a true inflation benefit on these life policies. The life policies, maybe the client doesn't have $200,000. Maybe it's those clients that are cash poor, but yet have good cash flow, Social Security, a pension plan, to where they can pay for this benefit, for this policy here. We can do that as well. A paid age 95. These policies will do that. What about qualified money? What about qualified money? So somebody that's IRA rich or 401k rich, you can actually move that $200,000 of qualified money into this Asset Care Life product. And what happens behind the scenes is there is actually an annuity that 10 pays the life long-term care policy. So turns it into non-qualified money over a 10-year period of time. The client is 1099, roughly 1/10. Every year of that $200,000. But that is a way of taking qualified money and getting great long-term care coverage, taking qualified money and getting great long-term care coverage immediately by using one of these life hybrid products. So very, very customizable these life policies are. Now, this one is a 72-month benefit period, right? So over 72 months, that client can spend down their almost $700,000. What happens if we choose an unlimited COB? Remember, the acceleration of benefits, that is the death benefit coming out first. That's the first phase, the AOB. But then when that death benefit disappears, that's when the COB kicks in. Very important vernacular here. What happens if we choose a COB, that second stage, that is unlimited? And this is only specific to the life product here. I guess there is an annuity product that has an unlimited COB, but I won't go into that here. So unlimited continuation of benefits. If the client is in a nursing home for 15 years, this policy will cover it. Less of a death benefit. So if the client passes away without the death benefit, right? So if the client passes away without needing long-term care, $182,000 tax-free is going to beneficiary. But if the client's in a nursing home, again, for a couple of years, all that $182,000 is gone. Then the COB kicks in that can be into perpetuity. How much is the monthly benefit? It's less than the $9,000 some per month. It's $7,500 per month. But actually, this unlimited benefit is the most popular feature when it comes to One America's Asset Care, which is their life insurance hybrid product. Again, you have the Asset Care, their life hybrid product, the Indexed Annuity Care, which is the one for the old folks, the tax play, right? You have the Annuity Care 2 that I mentioned, which is similar to the Global Atlantic, roughly 3 times what the value is, that their account value is. That's the long-term care value. And then the Global Atlantic 4Care product. Those are the products we talked about there. So hopefully this was bearable. Let me know if you have any questions.